All right, welcome to this series where we review scholarly articles investigating the world of urban agriculture. In this video, these are my top most interesting picks from the most relevant 100 articles published in January 2022. So here we go. This first one, investigating plant growth promoting microbes to improve stormwater retention of a newly built vertical greenery system. Pretty interesting. Let me see. They compared it to other types of green roofs. They did rain simulations, and then found that the inoculation of plant growth promoting microbes, depending on the substrate type and water quality, these were all the variables that they tested, and that they found the inoculation of those plant growth promoting microbes significantly reduced runoff quantity from the vegetation containers. So microbes that make plants grow faster reduce water runoff, probably in part because those, or in large part because those plants are taking up that water faster. They selected microbes, promoted growth in some of the species, not all. Some of the microbes responded to substrate type and host type. Others didn't always respond. Environmental conditions, of course, affected everything else. But anyway, just kind of interesting, and I think we'll just be seeing more of this kind of work where we're now assessing these microbes and we're putting in certain ones to get certain effects, or even creating like this cocktail, depending on uses. So we might have a microbial cocktail for green roofs. All right, so that's this one. Next. Past and future impacts of urbanization on land surface temperature in Cairo Greater Cairo over a 45-year period. All right, new article, nothing really new found here. They used, what was it, LiDAR, right? LST, no. Or is it, They used remote sensing to estimate, land surface temperature over 45 years, 1986, 2017, and then predicted out in 2030. Of course, it was hottest near their big major road, ring road around the city, and then coolest near the river. Urban area heats have increased over the last 30 years. Duh. Agriculture's gone down. Water bodies have increased or decreased. Okay. Yep. Land surface temperature has increased over time. This is the interesting one where we get to see from 31.3 centigrade in 86 to 36. So that's an increase of, what, 5 centigrade in 30 years? Not great. And then estimated to hit 38. So another 2 centigrade in another 13, or actually fewer years now. So anyway, nothing really new, but it's nice to kind of have these numbers to reference, and and that's probably how this article will end up working its way into my work, is as a reference for a trend in urban heat island heat increasing. Okay, home gardening in Singapore, feasibility study on the utilization of vertical space in retrofitted public housing apartments to increase urban vegetable self-sufficiency. Okay, basically, so there's two things that they found here. One was that they found that they used this gardening prototype, a different kind of bed, basically, and it gave them a 5-fold increase over the commercial planter system. So whatever people had been using and was commercially available, they tried this new prototype design and gave it increased people's yield by over 5 times. It also increased their options from just leafy greens to including climbing crops. But at the end of the day, this corridor gardening was only able to meet 0.5% of the demand. Here we go. Crops can be grown anywhere. We have the tools to. Yield is proportional to space and space devoted. So they found building corridors producing about 0.5% of people's produce needs. Shallow rooftop gardens giving you 3%, and then facades giving 43%. If we go down further, we find, where was it? Sorry, right there. Owing to the closeness of apartment buildings, certain facades or certain levels of buildings may not receive adequate sunlight to grow vegetables, which would directly affect the photosynthesis rate and yield. It's weird. They give this like caveats to facades, like it depends on sunlight access. But of course, that's the whole thing. No matter where you are, well, in general, for plants anyway, they need sun, and then especially in the city, you're facing a lot of challenges from nearby buildings. So maybe rooftops have the least amount of challenge facing them because they're up on top. But facades, if you can get a sunny one, could actually produce almost, like 4/10 of people's food, and that's pretty good. That's pretty cool. So just neat to see more feasibility studies and just more reasons that we need to start doing this kind of work. All right, influence of demographic characteristics and social network on peri-urban smallholder farmers. Evidence from southern Ghana. This article looks at basically how are people adapting to climate change depending on their demographics. Ultimately, they found that basically demographics significantly influence adaptation strategies to climate change. Then this one was interesting. Gender, however, inversely influenced alternate livelihood adaptation strategy. Really what they're saying. So gender inversely influenced. So gender is inversely related to whether or not someone's trying this livelihood adaptation. What it means is really, it's only inversely related because they assign one of them, male, to be positive. What the real discovery here is saying is that women are more likely to adopt alternate livelihood strategies. And then you can read down further into the rest of this article if you'd like to find out about those alternate life strategies. I think I looked at it for a second. Let's see. Where were we? Oh, I went down to table 4. Basically, here's table 4, and this is here's where we find, gender affecting life adaptations. But anyway, the life adaptation strategies are like, doing multiple kinds of work, or just not putting all your eggs in one basket and trying different things. The potential of urban agriculture for increasing food security and improving earthquake recovery. This is out of Vancouver, Canada. This article I was excited to read, and then meh. It concludes, quote, this paper concludes with specific interventions for how urban agriculture can be utilized for earthquake recovery in order to build resilience. No, it doesn't. Here's what they conclude with, right? Consider urban agriculture in planning. Link urban agriculture with earthquake management and recognize holistic benefits. So this conclusion is just urban agriculture helps, and you can help it help by recognizing that it helps and using how it helps to help. It's dumb. I didn't like it. The assessment of the city's resources, of Vancouver City itself, and applying this to other cities, that was, I think, the more useful part of this article, just assessing how ready a city is to leverage urban agriculture with its disaster recovery efforts. LED irradiation delays post-harvest senescence in pak choi by regulating amino acid metabolism. This one was pretty cool. Lots of neat stuff going out with LEDs right now. Lots of neat stuff in the post-harvest world. Just trying to make food last longer and in fact be healthier. So they did some different things. LED radiation had a considerable effect on metabolism of several amino acids. Some most significantly, LED irradiation was also found to increase soluble protein content and decrease protease activity and amino acid levels at 5 days of storage. So it's increasing content and stability of proteins. So pretty cool, pretty cool. The light they used was a decent white light, a little bit green heavy, and you can see it down here in section 2.1, right? This is the breakdown, micromoles per meter squared for each of the wavelengths, and the red to far red ratio, blue to red, or red to blue ratio, all that stuff, 0.4 meters away from plants. Everything you want to know, because it is a good scientific article, and they give you the methods. All right, lawn with size holler. Rainwater harvesting for self-sufficiency through urban ag. Okay, this one, interesting. I especially liked how they found this one. Using LiDAR, they found that 65% of residential properties in Adelaide, South Australia, had enough land to provide not only vegetables, but capturing and storing rainwater sufficient for irrigation, even in the dry year scenario. So this was neat. So not only, of course, if you've got a yard, you can probably grow the food for it, right? But 2/3 of these yards have enough space, not just for crop production, but for the water harvesting and the irrigation as well, without having to rely on municipal services, even through a drought year. So that's pretty cool. And just really, for me, seems to indicate that we've got this about to grow sector of services to support urban agriculture, where some of these other things come out. Like, it's not just, okay, have your raised beds. It's like, okay, let's start incorporating rainwater harvesting and gray water reuse and all that. All right, last article from January this year. Capturing Landscape Values in Peri-Urban Satayama, which was in Japan. Diversity of visitors' perceptions and implications for future value assessments. So basically, people, they surveyed people visiting this forest to find out what they liked about it. Mostly visited by married elderly people from this Aichi prefecture, engaging in forest bathing and bird watching. I also liked this. Use patterns like frequency, duration, group size presented a significant relation to demographic variables. So what they're saying here is different people came for different things, right? Use patterns were significantly related to demographic variables. Who you are tells what you're going to go use the forest for. Yeah, and then the sociocultural forest elements displayed a more detailed value. Right. When you ask people about these things specifically, they start finding more uses and reasons that they love the forest. If you just say, why do you like the forest? They're like, oh, being in nature, which, forest bathing. But if you actually start being like, do you find recreational uses? Is it therapeutic? Is it spiritual, culture? If you prompt them these categories, suddenly they're like, you know what? You're right. I really like this forest. It serves me in a lot of ways. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. My 8 most interesting that I could see articles from January 2022. Thanks for listening, and see you around.